All right, everyone. Hello, hello. So I just want to thank all of the people on the panel here. It is a very full group. For the sake of time, I'll ask them to introduce themselves when it's going through. But it is a conversation on sales agents, which I can say personally from finishing a master's recently at London Film School. I said this little tidbit on day 2, but we were all asked on the first day what we wanted to do in filmmaking. And many people, the majority said directing, some producing, and many were screenwriters, like myself. By the end of it, on the final day, they asked us the same question, and there was a 47% change to sales agents, which perhaps speaks to the work that you guys do, or perhaps the placement on the distribution waterfall. But either way, I wonder if you guys can speak to your own individual accolades and what you do, briefly introduce yourselves, and sort of speak about your position in the industry and where you see the position of sales agents in the future. Starting for the farthest right.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diao. I'm from France and Burkina Faso. I run a sales and distribution company called Sudu Connection, focusing only on African films, films from Africa or the African diaspora.
My name is Carlos Alperin. My company's name is Galloping Entertainment. I'm based in Australia. I'm also a producer as well as an international sales agent.
Hi, my name's Mili Cumic. Company's Locomotive Entertainment from the UK. We've done several African films, Love Dodoma, and recently In the Fire of War, which is a New Zealand film. We're doing international sales. We're a boutique company, and looking forward to speaking to you later.
Hello. My name is Tiffany Kilgore. I work for Cinema Management Group, which is an international sales agency based out of Beverly Hills. I've ran their head of marketing for the last 11 years. And yeah, thank you.
My name is Alan Green. I run a company called OneTwoThree Media. We're based in Las Vegas, and I've been in the business for many, many years. We basically focus on international films from multiple countries as well as commercial and art house. Thank you.
My name is Sydney Levine, and I go back so far that I was actually the first woman hired by any major studio in international distribution for 20th Century Fox in 1975, before women were welcome. So my career took a lot of different inroads. So I ended up being head of acquisitions for video, Lorimar Home Video, and Republic Pictures, and then went on to create a database, which is the basis of Sonando. And that allowed me to see what all the sales agents were offering, what rights were available, what was screening, what was in post, everything. And then it was bought by IMDb. So I just still care about the overview of what's happening internationally in cinema.
I'm Stephen Adams, one of the founders of Alta Global Media. We're a boutique management and production company with a big focus on African production. A lot of our clients are based in either South Africa or Nigeria. So I'm interested to hear what my other colleagues are saying, because I'm not a sales agent, just a producer, but very much dependent upon these kinds of people.
Super. Thank you all. Absolutely. Let's give it up for him. So I want to also speak to Stephen and just generally this side of the panel for a moment, because I think that there's a misconception that it's about the sales of it. But as far as I'm aware, it really comes down to partnerships, to connecting with distributors, connecting with people, and then creating and maintaining those partnerships. I wonder if you guys can speak to some of your longest partnerships that you're still working with, and perhaps some innovative ways that you've found yourself forging new ones.
Well, I'll back up and talk about what I think the changes are that people are being asked to make in the way that they approach making films. I think every filmmaker now has to have a strong marketing plan to begin with,
Sure.
and show a potential investor how they're going to actually make their money. Because if you don't know how to sell it, you can't. You got to come in with ideas that make sense, and you're also much clearer with a potential partnership if people come in with strong ideas. Have already built a robust social media plan for their story. I mean, there's no excuse now today to not have international vision for your work. And if it's female based or action, there's people who want that everywhere. And it's up to you to do the work to find the group. So there's no more excuse for like I can't cross a boundary. You have to cross it yourself. I think that's one of the most freeing things about this moment, is that if you take the time to do the work, you can make it happen.
Absolutely. If you like.
I'll put this on again. I turn it off. Sorry. So with the 11 years that I've been with Cinema Management Group, we work with all of the distributors that we worked with when I started with the company. A lot of them have bought multiple films from us throughout the years because, they would have a really good success and then maybe not so good success and then another good success, but they really trusted our work and they trusted that we bring high quality films to the marketplace. So I do think that there's something to say about those longevity relationships, and you deepen it, they become your friends. And on the other side with the producers, when you take on a film with a producer, it's a huge trust issue. I mean, a trust, thing. And so they have to trust you with their baby, that you're going to take it and take care of it and create an awesome marketing campaign and get it out to the festivals that they want and get it into the eyes and hands of the people that are really going to sell it successfully in their marketplace. Does it always turn out that way? No, but that's the goal. And we've had many producers come back and bring multiple films to our company because they really liked how we went about our marketing campaign and our sales and the deep relationships that we have with multiple distributors all around the world.
Absolutely. Before we get to you, Alan, would you say at your management group that you sort of stick to a sort of trusted path for distribution, or is it sort of always bespoke to whichever it may be to reach the widest audience?
I think that each film we curate differently, and also every market, not even just every year. I mean, just from the European film market to Cannes to AFM, and every market is different, and the marketplace really decides. It's really what's going on in the world, what's going on in our personal world, the collective consciousness. So it's a collaboration, a co-creation with the universe, really. If I could be so esoteric.
Yeah, I agree very much with what Tiffany said. This whole industry is about connections and relationships through the whole, from the top to the bottom, especially with producers, because obviously it's a very cutthroat business at the same time. There's a lot of films out there. There's a certain number of sales agents, and basically it's a marriage that we do with our producers to a certain extent. We literally probably talk to them more than they talk to their wives sometimes. And basically it's really understanding what their requirements are, what they really want out of it. Obviously, 99% of them say, I want to be on Netflix, but I always say there's other airlines to fly with. And really, at the end of the day, we use those relationships with going through to the distributors. Obviously, there's sales agents who have special relationships with certain distributors. But really, from my point of view, I want to get as much awareness and distribution for the producer, because I know they put the money in from the very first, and 9 times out of 10 they're the last ones to actually take any revenue at the end. So it's so important.
Excuse me, could you speak up, please?
Oh, my microphone.
Perhaps we could bring up the volume a bit on the third mic, if that's possible.
Sorry.
Did you have anything to add to that, Sydney?
Yes, there are about 400 450 international sales agents. There are about 20,000 films in a year produced, not sold. So to land the right sales agent, if you target the ones that seem to be the ones who are interested in your kinds of films, in the end of the day, there may be only 20. And it usually turns out only 20 really fit you and your kind of film. And it may change over years because new people come and go, but there are only 20. So your job to find a relationship that's going to last is to narrow it down to those 20. Just one example, this year I brought a film to the market, a project, not finished film, and I wrote 50 letters. I got 10 responses. I got 8 meetings, and we got more like 10 meetings, 2 passes, and 8 in process. We'll go the next step. So it narrows down, and those are the people you end up going back to again and again.
Absolutely. And I wonder if the panelists on this side can sort of speak to, obviously everyone's working in an international space, but whether it be Burkina Faso or otherwise in emerging markets within Africa or Australia or so, if you can speak to some innovative ways that the distributors and sales agents are working together to sort of bridge this industry at the moment.
I feel like being the baby as part of this panel, but my company will turn 10 next year. I came into this game because I started as a journalist believing that African films were missing more opportunities in media, more visibility. But then I realized that each time I was writing about them or talking about them on TV or newspaper or whatever, the audience feedback was always, wonderful, where can I watch the film? And my answer was always, you can't. I was just able to watch it because I went to this film festival far away and no theater is releasing it, no TV is broadcasting it, and no streaming platform is streaming it. So I realized that maybe distribution could be an option. So I started with a short film touring program called Quartier Lointain in French, so distant neighborhood between France, the United States, and some African country back in 2013. So every year it's a collection of short films on the same topic, directed 1 year by the African diaspora, 1 year by African filmmakers. And I had many talents coming out of this program, like Alice Diop, like CJ Obasi, like many other who went to Sundance, who won Caesar, who went to Cannes, and so far and so on. And I started my company back in 2016, Sudu Connection, in order to connect, on one side, African producers and filmmakers, and the other side, those famous buyers, broadcasters, film programmers, curators, who were not aware of those kind of films or those talents. They were always asking me as a journalist, like, oh, do you know any, women filmmaker from this country? Do you know any films dealing with this topic? And I was like, why are they not aware of what's going on the continent? Because we all agree that it's a really vibrant continent. And now that I'm doing distribution also, it's a real struggle because we release films in, I would say, 8 French-speaking African countries through the Canal Olympia network. So it's Benin, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Congo. We have Senegal, Togo. We also had Ivory Coast with another chain of cinemas called Majestic Cinema. And we also work with an art house cinema in Nairobi, Kenya. And the point is, right now, we only have blockbusters, American films working, comedy, horror films, it works. But I'm focusing on art house cinema because I don't know why we produce so much film, art house cinema from the African continent or an African perspective that are not released. But right now I had to set up a Sudu Academy to train people locally to bring audience back to cinema because since the 90s, people are not used to go to cinema anymore. They watch TV, they watch satellites, internet, whatever. But it's really hard to have people to come and watch a film, a local film, an African film, to pay for a ticket. And even to think that it's not only a premiere, it's a release, like the film will be on for 2 weeks. So right now, this is my struggle in Burkina Faso and all the other country I said.
That's a lot of it. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to focus mostly with producers about their concepts. I think that many times filmmakers produce films without knowing if the marketplace will be interested in buying their films. I call them products. I think we call them products, not really films, because they're products. So I try to work with producers on try to devise such a story that will make sense and will be interesting, will be different. In the case of Africa, but it can be frankly on every other country, or continent, it is really about trying to find your inner voice, something that is peculiar. I mean, if you can think about the French cinema wave or the Brazilian new film wave, or any other type of way of expressing your idea, that it will be so unique that people will say, wow. If there is no wow, it is really hard to sell a movie. So it must be something really special. Local drama, it is extremely hard to sell internationally. Local comedy, extremely hard to sell internationally. So it must be something from your own culture or from your own selves that is so special that distributors won't be able to compare and try to think, oh, this film is similar to whatever. So, if you could think about really original stories and don't try to imitate anything that others have done, because if something is successful now, once you raise the finance to produce it, it might be already late. So don't try to follow the trend. I mean, we have to, as sellers, but you guys, because you have to raise the money and you have to write and develop the projects, it is really about trying to focus on the story. It is frankly the most important thing. And I know, because I'm also a producer, that most producers they really rush to produce because they have to also make money. But if you could, delay the production until you really have something fantastic, I personally encourage producers to use script editors on their scripts. So try to be, just trying to get help from people who are objective, who don't know you, who are not your friends, you are not your colleagues, people who are simply strangers, but obviously they must have their own credits that you should check. So concept. Then the second thing that is extremely important is to try to find maybe a film sales agent or maybe a distributor. So then you understand if your project really has legs, because if it does not have legs, why to produce it? Unless you have a lot of money and you don't care. You really should talk to the marketplace. This is really essential. Now, the next step is when you're talking to a sales agent, think about the poster. The poster is probably, in my mind, 50% of the marketing of a movie. If a poster is not interesting, it's not special. So many posters, you see people putting their faces like, what sort of expression is this one? It does not say anything. And when we are at home and we want to watch a movie at night or series or whatever, I always find myself, with remote control and a click of a second. Even it's less than a split of a second that I'm moving from movie to movie. So it means that the poster, and most of the movies that I see, most of them I don't really know. So I'm quite objective, and I can see that I cannot find something interesting from the graphic point of view. If the picture of a poster does not talk, if it does not show something about the movie that is impactful, because our buyers are doing exactly the same. So forget about the audience. Think about your distributors. We put posters on the walls, and the distributors look at our posters, and if they don't see something special, in the same way that when we are at home and we watch movies, if they don't see any special type of poster, well, next. And when we are moving from one poster to the other, dozens, hundreds, or millions of dollars are being simply wasted. I don't have even the opportunity to show the trailer because they are not interested. And the second thing in relation to marketing is the title. Because if the title is not an amazing title, again, you continue, moving your finger with remote control. So try to think properly about the concept of the story, the poster, and the title.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And I also want to say thank you for the plug for our 350 panel on graphic design and poster.
No, because I want to piggyback on that comment because we work with Kenny Gravelis, who is
of course.
He's going to be on that panel, and he's an incredible poster designer who is doing not the poster you're seeing right now for Highest to Lowest, but the real one that's going to be out for the release of Spike's new film, Sinners.
Oh, yes.
Star Wars, Dune, Wakanda Forever. I mean, and the thing about these posters is that you say the title, you see the image. And that's the power of what these guys do. And people don't realize studios they may go through thousands of iterations of a poster until there's one that nails everybody's attention and speaks to the whole world with one image or set of images. So do not underestimate. I wanted to put a big circle around what you're saying because it's so hugely important to visually compel your story as well as you can.
Absolutely. And do please attend the panel as well.
Yeah, and he's going to break it down even more than I can.
But I wonder if Mili has anything to contribute as well in terms of...
Really, I'd agree with everything that's been said so far. Worked on a film that was filmed in Tanzania a couple of years ago, and when I got the film, it was 2 hours long. It was called Dodoma, and it had the poster was a lighthouse with a wood of trees. And I just looked at it and I thought, well, nobody's going to pick this up. So we re-edited the film because there was one scene that was 15 minutes long, which wasn't really relevant to the film. So we made it a tight 90 minutes. We changed the title to Love Dodoma because it was a romantic comedy. The designer created a poster which was bright yellow. And here's what I prepared earlier, which you can see from way back there. So it stands out, and if you're flicking through like you are, on Netflix, on Amazon, or wherever, you've got to be able to sort of see that. It's got to be able to jump out at you because there's no cast that's known outside of Africa. The cast itself has cast members from South Africa, Tanzania, Ghana, all over. So it really is like an international African cast. So it's important to make films that are for the domestic audience. Because it's at the end of the day, film is an art form, and it's a snapshot on life as it is at this sort of time in this era. But also, it's good to be able to maybe send that outside of the country to the diaspora and to other markets. And with this artwork, we managed to successfully get it released and distributed by Aspire TV in the States and in Africa as well. So. Yeah, it's sort of a...
Absolutely, well done. We just have one more comment from
Tiffany. I just have one more thing to say about the posters, just because you guys are talking a lot on them. A lot of people, because when you're working from a sales agent to a distributor, it's B2B, we're business to business. And so it's incredibly important for the sales agent to push on the marketing budget for the poster, because a lot of times these distributors do not recreate the poster. They take the poster from the sales agent. They may change a couple things in the background, or they may add a character here or there, but they really don't have the marketing budget to expand and get a whole new designer in, get comps, go through the whole thing, unless it's, a higher budget film. But like independent, low budget films, they do not have the bandwidth or the team internally to do that. So a lot of times they rely on the sales agent poster that they come up with. And so when I tell some of these low budget film producers that you guys have to think that your poster is going to be $20,000, they choke, because that's a lot of money to just put on a poster. But when you're talking about how 50% of the sales are going to come from that poster, it's incredibly important. The marketing for it is incredibly important.
Absolutely. And I can say, as an independent filmmaker and producer myself, I was once quoted 30 to 50K for my poster, and I was like, okay, that's a lot for me. But I totally understand. I think we could talk about this for
I can
so
get
much
you 20.
We could talk about that topic for so much longer, and I would love for you guys to be here for the Q&A when we have that panel as well, if you're available. But I just want to sort of go back to something that was mentioned by you, Steve, I believe, and just something that sparks my curiosity as a producer. What is something that you've seen from people bringing you films that right off the bat is a no-go from the way that they framed it or the way they presented it? And I want to have an answer from everyone. From what I've experienced, the most common one is it's for everyone when talking about demographics. But I wonder if anyone can have a line or two.
You're going to really... It's early in the morning, so I'm just going to be very blunt because I don't have a filter yet. It's most of the projects that come my way. And I'm sure it's probably for everybody. Most of them are not going to ever see the light of day. For many, many reasons. Some are just not fully baked. I would say that most of them aren't. Others just, as we mentioned, there's a shifting zeitgeist. What may have been riveting people's attention can change especially in this climate. what's really, really on the topic can become irrelevant the next day, and something else makes sense. So, one of the great things about old school producers was they had that predictive ability to land ahead of the culture. And I think that right now there's this over-reliance, and I'm not going to name any names, but they rely too much on algorithms. And one thing about algorithms is that they talk about everything that's already happened. Lots of information about what people used to do, and they know what you like. But here's the thing, if you give me hamburgers for 7 days, on the 8th day, I'm going to be looking for something very different. So you have to be careful about things like that, where like people break down, this is like this, is like this. You mentioned it earlier. They're talking about things that were conceived of 10 years ago that have landed on the screen. So be very careful about being derivative about things that were conceived of in another decade, because they're there. They're not there anymore. You can't get that done that quickly. So there's all those factors. And then I think now, as we're saying, people really need to come with a fully baked, thought through marketing plan that makes sense. You can always contribute to it with your new partners who will bring their sophistication and experience to it, but have some really clear-cut ideas that they can latch on to. But yeah, it's
so like preparation.
I think what it is that people don't realize how much they're asked to do to make this happen, and it sometimes can seem very daunting. But the fact is, if you want it to happen, these are the ways forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like a lot of preparation is lost when they're perhaps so passionate about their idea and trying to capture you in that 30-second time.
And sometimes people resent the fact that I want you to do that part. I'm like,
right, yeah.
I'm not doing your homework, kid.
Sure. And Alan, I think you have something to say as well.
Well, yeah, it's not a matter of if I build it, they will come, because most of the time they will not come. Preparation is really, like any business, 9/10 of success. And having a whole packaging, having an idea of what the poster should look like, having an idea of what the trailer should look like, so that at least they have something to talk to the sales agent about, to give them the real feeling that they actually know who the market is for this film. The beauty at the moment is the market is full of very niche platforms, so there is room in the market for lots of different types of films. They don't always have to be blockbuster or a particular type. So at the end of the day, we all see lots of producers during the market, and they all have got big dreams, and sometimes we have to be, cruel to be kind to a certain extent. A lot of films we see is a local film for a very local audience, and they don't realise that, internationally or beyond their region, this film has got very little knowledge about the subject matters. So, I always think that producers should know who their market is for the film. We then look at it and think, where is that market? How big is that market? Does that market have any money to a certain extent? So it is all about preparation and not expecting flowers and.
I wanted to piggyback on what you're saying, because I have a very good friend who used to run the finance department of a big agency, and I asked him to come and talk with me at the Motion Picture Academy to young students, many of whom had won Student Academy Awards. So they were, very sophisticated storytellers, but it was very clear from our conversations they knew nothing about the aspects we're talking about, which is the real business. And so he said, I'd like to have you lower the lights in the theater. And they kept getting lower and lower and lower. I'm like, it's almost black in here. And he goes, great, this is perfect. This is just the atmosphere I wanted to deliver this message to all of you. And I'm like, what is he going to say? And he said, fuck you and fuck your dreams. And of course, this naturally caused an uproar. And I was kind of like, the Academy's never going to have me back here again, bringing you in here. And then, a couple of kids got up, and one girl said, I'm really offended. He goes, well, good. If that's all it takes for you to leave the business, you're never going to make it anyway. So there's the door. And I was like, brother, whoa. And so to turn the lights up, he goes, now that I have your attention, maybe you'll listen to what I have to say and take it seriously. And then he broke down his dream, which is to make money. So he said, what we are looking for is a marriage of your vision and my vision. That is where things can happen. But unless you respect my side and don't have this attitude that, yeah, that's the part I don't want to do, I just want my goodies. Well, that's not how it works. So that message got through. And I thought I'd quote him right now.
Oh, that's very interesting. I also have a video of myself. I use that phrase all the time, believe it or not. And I also want to say, though, in terms of what Alan spoke on, and you also spoke on this, in terms of it not having to be a blockbuster sort of production, but an auteur film. And I wonder, perhaps you can speak to this from the African side of things, in terms of there being a limited amount of theatrical releases possible for much of sub-Saharan Africa. I can say that I was completely shocked by the breadth of work coming out of Nigeria, but the limited amount of actual cinemas to physically go to. And I know there's a lot of work being done, a lot of investment being done now in terms of like retrofitting or making it more of like a communal space where you can do more than just watching the cinema. And I wonder if you're aware of anything in that regard that's on its way up.
Thanks. I won't talk about Nigeria, South Africa, which are finally the biggest places for business and working on the hardest part. But for example, Burkina Faso, we do have like in Ouagadougou, the capital city, we have 4 cinemas. So you have 2 Canal Olympia on 2 sides of the city, really far away, and then you have 2 major cinemas central. So the audience is used to go central. But those 2 central cinema are just occupied with H.264 files, like MP4 files. You cannot screen in DCP.
Okay.
If you want to screen on DCP, you have to go to Canal Olympia, which is a single screen. So you have to fight with times with the blockbuster, all the release. So you have maybe the 3 p.m. screening, the 5:30 p.m. screening. So it's really complicated in terms of place where you can put your film. And then you have, of course, some open-air screenings opportunities, but it's always a question of money. So how do you get money from the audience if they just come and sit? Maybe you will have 2,000 people, but will they pay for the tickets? If you rent some seats and so on. So right now I think it's a big struggle throughout French-speaking Africa, because I guess that English-speaking Africa was more trained about business. Like, I put this amount of money, I want a feedback. But in French-speaking Africa, we were used to receive fundings with no expectation in terms of returns. So you got the money, you make your film, it doesn't make any money, and you make another film. You just apply, you get fundings, and it's all around. I mean, it's been like this for many, many decades. And it's quite complicated at the moment. And then you have a difference between a film produced on the continent and a film co-produced, for example, with European films.
Surely.
And because we are in Cannes, you must realize that almost every African film selected in Cannes has a European co-producer or a Western co-producer. And this year we have the first Nigerian film at Un Certain Regard. But I'm wondering why, since the 90s, we have Nigerian films, and the only one picked up is the one co-produced by England. So it's always this kind of, I mean, I'm talking about sales because you will have sales agents only focusing on, okay, have your film been to Cannes, Venice, Berlin, Toronto? So if you say, I was in Fespaco, I was in Carthage, I was in Durban, they're like, we don't care. What is this? Is there an industry over there? And then they will have some fundings. You have to respect some quota, you know. So it's really 2 different aspects when you picked a film and you try to sell it, even in terms of expectation, partners' expectation. So you have on one side like African films that just want to reach an international audience, and on the other side you have co-production who try to reach specific markets where they have to be because of the partners, because of the money. And even if you release in those kind of territories, sometimes it's more word of mouth that really a lot of money. So I don't know where will be the answer. Maybe you find funders with a lot of money that try to change the game.
Anyone here? Lots of money, ready to... No. No, but I absolutely hear what you're saying. And perhaps Mili or Carlos is able to speak towards sort of inventive ways that you've pitched something in terms of it not being at Cannes or Venice or something like that, but trying to find a way to position it to have some greater value. And if you have any tips and tricks there. One example that I have is I was pitching an up-and-coming actress out of Germany, but she is not really having much of a social media presence. But I went through every individual individual post on all of her pages, and I found, and then I tabulated all of it, and I was like, oh, she has 1.3 million impressions, and tried to like position it that way. If you have any things you've done in that regard.
Okay. Probably two things. One is I have been approached by a US-based writer, and he wanted me to become. Okay. And this writer wanted me to be the producer of his two projects, and I said, no, thank you, I have enough on my slate. But then he showed me that he already has 15 international awards, each one of his projects. And then I thought, wow, maybe I should really read, the script, because maybe there's something here that I haven't seen, even though my first reaction was, no, thank you. I read one of them, and I thought, okay, I'm interested, let's work together on that. And then he said, but I also want you to represent the other one. I said, excuse me, I thought that I have enough projects. I mean, I don't need more projects. But again, he showed me so many international awards. So this is a sort of trick in the sense of how a producer can approach a sales company without having anything, no equity, no distribution, nothing, no cast, zero cast. And this way of having some type of leverage. If you have a little bit of leverage, then I think we are going to listen even more. The other one is I'm trying to convince my producers to stop thinking all the time to have a list cast. Because, listen, I mean, obviously, because obviously, I mean, obviously you have the best possible cast, yes, so you have better chances, but in today's world, unless you have an amazing project, incredible concept, and the story that, is really special, distributors, yes, they will be even more interested in your project if you have really well-known cast, but they won't pay too much more than otherwise. And I try to convince my producers to start thinking about influencers. Why not use influencers? I mean, why we cannot switch our mind, to change our models of thinking, of all the time think about the same, and we as Homo sapiens, we are known to be able to adapt ourselves to the new circumstances. Why don't we think about what's happening now? It's like, I don't have a clue, for example, about TikTok, but I know the young people, they do. So why not try to understand, what is it that attracts them? Why not to use influencers who can bring 10, 20, some people even have 60 million people. I mean, if somebody will tell me, listen, I can bring here 60 million people or 100 million or 10 million, well, at least I have something. And I think also distributors will have to change in a way their ways of thinking if we bring influence, because they also are stuck in the old model of distribution that you need really a very good cast.
For sure. Yes, absolutely. So it's being aware of this new wave and this next generation of power of the influencers. And also, I'm not on TikTok either. It's all very, very daunting for me. I'm 32, but it's no way. And Mili, if you have anything to contribute to?
Yeah, really to echo what's been said already, and to really be prepared to have, if you're pitching a film, looking for investment, is to have everything ready. Have an original idea. Recently, we're at the moment selling a film from New Zealand, which is based around the indigenous Maoris, and it's the last battle between the British and the Maoris. So a famous story, I think, always works, and that will be then evergreen. So I think that matters for whichever territory, whichever country you're in. Make something that's important for your country, and it'll stand the test of time. People will always go back to it as well.
Absolutely, and I think that also speaks to the African diaspora at large. I was speaking with a filmmaker from London, but he always says first, I am Nigerian, which is awesome. But he was saying that he wasn't sure in terms of his marketing. He knew that he can get enough people in Brixton involved, and enough people in South London, and in Nigeria, of course. But he was mentioning that he wanted to do a co-release with Houston, Texas, because of its Nigerian population. So it's finding that diasporic content that speaks to your community, but where that community has left and has gone everywhere else globally. But yeah, also if you had something to say.
I just have one really quick thing to say. So when we brought on Loving Vincent, it was the first hand-painted full-feature animation that has ever been created. When the producers brought that to us, they had started a Kickstarter campaign. Now, we don't generally encourage Kickstarter campaign for films. However, it showed that there was a very large audience that was very attracted to the picture. That what they also did was they went to the Vincent van Gogh Museum, and they got permission from the museum and a blessing from the museum to back the film. And so when the film was released, it was very challenging to get distributors to buy into the film, even though it has an amazing IP. There's over 4 million people annually that visit that museum. It was very difficult. We were begging distributors to take it. We tried to get it into Sundance, Tribeca, Venice, couldn't get it anywhere. When it finally got an Oscar nomination was when it really blew up. And so it was, getting the Van Gogh Museum behind it, getting the audience they ended up getting a really great cast. One of the cast members put out a YouTube little teaser, and that blew up. So it just was kind of this organic, compilation of like guerrilla marketing, really. And so I think that there's, a lot to say when you bring on a lot of creative people onto your team and come up with these new ideas to get it out there.
Absolutely. And we had some speakers yesterday regarding the nature of just asking people, it doesn't hurt to put a request out there to the museum or otherwise, because so many of them may just give you a small window, but that may be all you need. Alan, did you have anything? I thought you may have... Oh, no, apologies. Oh, sorry.
I can always talk. One thing we haven't mentioned is, at the end of the day, it's the quality of the production. This is hugely important because of the number of projects that are hitting. I think there's probably about 5,000-6,000 films at Cannes this market, and obviously to stay above the rest, there's points of differentiation, and one major point is the quality of the filming. The sound. First thing a lot of distributors look at when they screen a film is, if the sound isn't right, 2 minutes, it's gone, it's finished.
Sure.
Color correction has to be good. The editing has to be smooth, and that is one of the major points where we do the cutoff. If the quality is not of a sufficient level, don't use the microphone attached to the camera.
Labs still exist, yes.
They still exist. I still see them. So it's actually having the right equipment, because we're fighting with thousands of other films at any one moment.
Absolutely. We do have to wrap up very briefly, but since we have so many, I wonder if we can do like a 35 or 45 seconds for each individual speaker about sort of a hopeful message for what you're seeing in your sector and for the industry. It can be a hopeful way that you're seeing people augmenting, using AI to augment their processes, or streamlining anything, or just emerging concepts that bring you hope for your industry. If we can start over there as well.
Always me. No. After almost 10 years with Sudu, I have the feeling that pushing year after year some African titles, I see a change of mind. Now programmers are reaching me, buyers are reaching me, even broadcasters asking like, what's new in your catalog? So I have some hopes regarding that. We even have films on airplanes. Usually you only see Nigerian films in airplane. No offense to Nigerians, but they are the one everywhere. So I'm happy to have like a film from Madagascar on Oman Airways, Qatar Airways, Air Canada, Air Algeria, Ethiopian Airlines. It's like, wow, finally people will travel, send us picture and say, hey, we saw your film. So now we have a kind of answer to like where can we watch the film?
Super, fantastic.
So I hope that, yes, there will be more and more interest, because I also work as a programmer for film festivals, and I see the really lack of interest.
Sure.
It's like the United States, Europe, like business, industry, and then world cinema, and I hate this word, and then behind world cinema, then you have the African industry. And I would love this to change. Just, you watch the film, you appreciate the film, and as everyone said, it's quality first.
Absolutely.
My hope is that producers will be aware that when we talk to distributors, or when distributors watch our movies, maximum 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If nothing happens, well, next. And we do exactly the same. So my hope is that you guys will actually work on your scripts in such a way that the first 5 minutes are amazing, that we can identify with the characters, that the characters will have something at stake, and therefore there's already tension. Otherwise, not only distributors, also we as audience won't really care. So please, don't start slow. You can, but try to create a situation that we will be really interested as quick as possible. Second thing is try to use also AI. AI is fantastic for marketing. So AI is excellent to write the best possible log lines, short synopsis, long synopsis, but work with AI. Don't just expect that AI will give you the answer, but work with it and hammer it as many times as you think until you get something that is really good. You don't need it. You don't have to use AI, but it is a very good tool that I would like to recommend you.
Absolutely.
I think there's a more acceptance now for subtitle films, so people are more open worldwide to watching films from all different territories, all different countries. And I think, the quality generally is going up. I would always say just be prepared. Echoing what Carlos has said, make sure the pitch deck is good, the ideas are good, the story is good, and the quality of the filming has got to be raised as well. But overall, I think it's very, very positive, and films are being accepted in more places.
Mm-hmm.
In the honor of being at AfroCannes, I just want to piggyback what you said about more distributors coming out of Africa and demanding licenses and distribution in Africa, which is awesome. We're also seeing it with our sales agency as well. I worked with a marketing team that we hired just recently about just like kind of what's going on in the marketplace. And so this is not exactly coming from me. I'm cheating right now. But I'll give you what they told me on their insight. And because we have on our phones all these graphics and all these special effects and all this stuff that we can just see right on our phone, a lot of people are not going to... they're not exactly going to the theater to see all these crazy special effects anymore. We're so inundated with media on our fingertips that, seeing something explode or seeing something blow up, whatever, it's just not as... doesn't drive the viewer to go into the theater to go see it. They'll wait till it comes on a streamer. And so what's actually changing is people are more interested right now in the narrative. They're more interested in the actual story of the film. And so it's a really beautiful time right now, I think, where we're going to see some heartfelt, long-lasting films that have really depth and story behind them. And I think that's very hopeful and a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. The re-emergence of auteur filmmaking, absolutely.
Yes, I'm currently have a Moroccan production called Atoman, which is a sci-fi superhero film, which is very unusual coming from the African continent, which really tells me that the world's your oyster at the moment. Don't think that just because other countries do these films, not necessarily better, but they are successful, that isn't what you should also be looking at, rather than just sticking to the same drama potentially as history has been. So, live the dream and really just push for ideas which are surprising and catches the eye of buyers around the world.
Absolutely.
My hope... I think from what I hear around, I have a friend who just bought a theater in New York in partnership with the former head of Unifrance in the U.S. And I think that the young people watch subtitled films, thank you to the streamers, but that they're getting sick of their little telephones and they're discovering theatrical experience as a communal sharing of an emotional experience with good films. And my hope is that the theatrical venue is going to grow as this discovery of this great communal event.
Absolutely.
I love everything everybody's been saying, and I think for my final thought, I think that what makes me hopeful is that we're talking about a continent of billions of people, a very young continent. that is very educated, and the wealth of the world really is coming out of Africa. And we know that. I mean, the rest of the world would not exist without the physical wealth that comes out of Africa, and also the wealth that it's contributed for centuries.
Great.
So I think that I see the self-harnessing of countries like Burkina Faso and others that are, taking their own destiny into their own hands. So I think that art will be another manifestation of that. I don't think we're at the point where the solutions are, but I mean, I've been coming to Cannes for 20 years. I don't remember an African presence here at that time. It's been growing gradually and steadily until we're at the point like this. And I've been supporting Prudence since she started. Now you really feel it, and it's here, and it's significant, and it's a turning point. So, I don't look at that we're anywhere near completed, but I think that we are at a tipping point, and I think that extraordinary things I think the 21st century is the century of the African continent, and so I think that goes across the board from politics, wealth, culture, and solutions to the world's problems, and cinema as well. So I'll leave you with that.
Absolutely, well said. To the African continent. Oh, sure.
It's the 50th anniversary of the only African Palme d'Or, Chronicles of the Year of Fire by Mohamed Lagdar Amina from Algeria. It's screened on March 23rd as part of Cannes Classics.
Super. Well, thank you to all of the panelists. Thank you all for your time. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break. And if we could please just have one more round of applause for the panelists. Thank you so much.